Consider the consequences to original research. Many clever and gifted individuals are made to feel that lockstep conformity is the highest ideal. Some have thought that the reason Albert Einstein had to get a job at the Swiss Patent Office after he got his doctorate was because he'd done so poorly in his classes. Not the case at all. He alienated his professors by his arrogant attitude and his refusal to do his assignments. As a result, they wouldn't recommend him even though they knew he was the brightest student in their class. And where did he develop these attitudes? Perhaps Einstein was a snob, but growing up in Germany, when he did, demanded abject submission, especially from a Jewish boy. As a result, he carried a lifelong hatred for authority. Where would science be had Einstein conformed? Personal remarks. I've never been high on spectator sports. I would far rather be out on the field myself. That may sound absurd for a balding old man who had barely come up to the kneecaps of a typical athlete, but I would 10 times rather be huffing and puffing out on the soccer field than sitting in the bleachers. I've always wanted to do things myself, whether in sports, in my profession, fixing a car, or anywhere else in life. One summer while hiking well away from the trail, on a remote area of the Wind Rivers, my children and I came across a cascade of water tumbling and splashing down the side of a heavily forested slope into a beautiful alpine lake. We intended to hike on, but were so drawn to the sight with its 100 nuances of beauty that we dallied for an hour and finally decided to forget our schedule and camp there. I wouldn't trade that evening for a visit to the Metropolitan Museum of Art. For me, life experienced is far more beautiful than life hanging on a wall. I've never seen a painting as beautiful as the rich red glow of air all around when my wife called me to the window to experience a most unusual rainbow. A fawn stopping in a shaft of sunlight in the forest to be nursed by its mother. The hunched shoulders of my daughter Lynn as we hiked over Shannon Pass in a blizzard. They are my masterpieces of beauty. When I was a college senior, I questioned a theorem in a physics text. Thought I could disprove it. Oh boy. I worked on it until late in the night, until I was sure of my position. The next day in class, I told my professor, Lyle Borst, that I thought I could disprove the theorem. Certainly. He graciously handed me the chalk, gestured toward the board. As I presented my argument to the class, its flaw leaped out at me, and I apologized and sat down. But do you know what that theorem was? The second law of thermodynamics. That is one of the most important and well-developed and well-substantiated theorems in all of science. I was going to disprove it. One day, someone accused me of bear hunting, meaning I was bound and determined to disprove one of the great authorities in science. No, I'm content to find that Einstein's theory of relativity is correct, as long as I am granted the same privilege to examine and question his work that he insisted on with others. The privilege of probing, questioning, doubting, wondering, it's not reserved to the authorities at Harvard or Caltech. It is my right as well. It is my right as an individual. God said to Moses, I am. And he has given me that name as well. I too am. Fostering self-respect. There is one person who fosters self-respect in others more than anyone else I have ever met. I think you know who I mean. Your mother and grandmother and my wife, Anne. Many of you have observed of her, quote, she listens. Most people listen long enough to conveniently start talking about themselves. Not Anne. She gives you her full attention, asking questions. So what did you do? How did that make you feel? When she offers an opinion, it's almost always to affirm what the other person is saying. Oh, I so agree with you. No one leaves a conversation with Anne without feeling better about themselves. They know that to Anne, they exist. To honor a few individuals. I honor Michael Faraday, the son of a poor blacksmith, who had a blacksmith who had 12 other children. Faraday had no formal schooling, yet through self-study, he became a renowned scientist whose name will forever be attached to one of the great laws of electromagnetism, Faraday's law. I honor a friend of mine who, as a tiny girl, having blocked from her mind early childhood memories, as a tiny girl, was subjected to extensive and violent forms of sexual and mental abuse. Having blocked from her mind those early childhood memories, she lived for years with an unexplained but overpowering feeling of being filthy. And worthless. Recently, through an immense struggle, she has learned to face her past and is standing up to say, I am clean, I am good, I am worthwhile. I honor my mentally handicapped niece who lived in an institution in California. Brain damage during the birth process robbed her of many of the simplest abilities, and periodic seizures eroded her nervous system. She contributed little to society, but those who knew her, when she smiled and patted your cheek, you felt warm and loved. Sue was a person, a unique individual. I honor and respect those intelligent individuals who agree with my science, who agree with my politics, who agree with my religion. I honor and respect those intelligent individuals who disagree with my science, who disagree with my politics, and who disagree with my religion. I honor Anne. 60 years. Anne has given me the secret And it's almost a deep secret of how to treat people. I learned that from her. Superficially, I was great already, but I had much to learn. I honor my wife for giving me 6 absolutely wonderful years. And I honor Anne that every morning as I leave for work, I get a kiss. And every evening, what do I get? A Mrs. Kavanaugh's chocolate. Yeah. Right, Marcy? And every night, just before she rolls over and goes to sleep, and I roll over and toss and turn for 3 hours, every night before we fall asleep, I get a kiss. Thank you, Anne. It's been wonderful. And thank you all. Amazing. You are the marvel of the universe.